everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today's fashion edition is going to take a look at a few of Meghan Markle's Invictus looks so far. When I'm filming this, it's only been a couple of days, so we only have a few, but we will keep updating the fashion editions as we go in the coming weeks. So let's begin with the first time we saw the Meg doing anything, delivering a terrible speech. Terrible. If you missed the video where we covered it, I will link it for you. I think it was the reception before the opening ceremony or something like that. So this is a brown dress from ALC and it's called the Willow. It's a pleated midi dress in a chocolate hue. And this is really good for her in many ways. This was actually quite nice and successful for the Meg. So one of the first things you'll notice when you look at this piece, even with the Meg in it, is the eye is drawn to this sort of faux slit or cutout in the long top, the tunic length top part of this dress. So this sort of faux slit of this drop-waisted top is catching the eye. It's creating a focal point right there, which is doing a lot of good things for the Meg's figure. Because it's off to the side, it's going to help slenderize and take away from the look of her boxier torso. Her lack of a well-defined waist is sort of camouflaged by taking the eye to one side or the other. Asymmetry is a great way to divert the eye away from the center of the waist, which then can tend to widen things further. So it's a really great technique. So that's really helping. It's also that longer hemline to this top. I think it's just a one-piece situation, but it looks like a tunic top on top. So the longer drop waist sort of effect of this is also helping to elongate her torso, so it's camouflaging or blending that shorter torso as well. So this is doing two great things, great styling approaches for balancing her style concerns, which as you can see here, Meg's primary style concerns is that she has a short and boxy torso, so lacking that well-defined waist, and a shorter torso, a shorter waist. It's easily identifiable when you compare it to somebody like this who has a very long, well-defined waist where that thinnest part of the waistline is visible for a few inches, some distance, whereas the Meg's is like this long. Nothing wrong with that. We all have different bodies and different style concerns. Just got to be honest about them in order to address them properly. Her next style concern besides that is that her limbs then appear and actually are relatively long. She has long, skinny limbs, lanky looking limbs, and the fact that she also has a short torso makes that look even more exaggerated. So she has a rather pronounced long limb, short torso ratio. You know, as you can see here, for example, her hands come down nearly to her knees, which is quite far. A lot of people, it only comes down to the bottom of the hip area. Thirdly, she has broadest point of her shoulder line. So she has broader shoulder line, which doesn't necessarily help to balance out her other features. In fact, sometimes it can kind of exaggerate those torso features. She's not particularly curvy or anything like that. So those are really her primary style concerns that you would want to address in an outfit. And since this particular dress has two things that help to address the torso and that ratio and proportion that kind of throws things a little bit back closer to balance, is really, really great. I'm very pleased to see that. The skirt also, because it is a fuller pleated skirt, is adding more weight, more visual weight to her lower body, which in turn is helping to balance out her broader shoulders. And especially since this has a little bit of a halter style to the neckline, it would otherwise make her shoulders look more exaggerated, more broad, more dominant to her overall silhouette. But because that skirt flares out, has some visual weight because it has texture, it has a little bit of volume, it's drawing the eye there and creating that balance to the shoulder line. So her shoulders and her skirt actually look a lot more in balance than they do a lot of the time. This is the problem that she runs into when she wears skinny jeans or skinny pants of any sort with a larger, bulkier top. It makes her look incredibly top heavy. and her legs look all the more exaggeratedly thin and twiggy. So this was a really, really great technique for balancing the shoulder line as well, especially since she's choosing to go ahead and highlight the shoulders still with it being a halter top. The fact that the skirt has those pleats and is a little bit wider, has a tiny bit of a flare to it, really helps to balance things out and combat it. Lastly, this is a monochrome look. It's all in this sort of chocolate hue, which is going to help elongate and cylinderize as well. So it's adding a little bit more polish to her look. It's elongating her frame in general. It's a very successful dress for her in a lot of ways. Even if it's not everybody's taste, this is a success. A couple of notes. Here in this picture, her waist looks a little bit thicker. It almost looks as if the waistline of this is sitting a little too high. I'm not sure why this looks so bulky from this angle, but from other angles it looks more polished and nice. As for her hair, I'm very pleased to see her wearing a side part. However, it looks like some of the extensions she placed in underneath on the underside along here have caused a weird split to happen in the front where her fringe is. You can see just one piece sort of hanging down, like it just really maybe had a cowlick and didn't want to cooperate. If you're going to be on stage, have your photos taken, it's best to just be like, well, if my hair is not going to cooperate, I'm going to change my hairstyle. She could have gone with a half back or just pinned her hair to the side so that she didn't have that challenge there. She also went for just plain stud earrings. I think that was a great choice, especially since she has her hair down. That worked fine too. Next, let's take a look at this tragedy, okay? She started strong with that chocolate dress, and it looks like things are just going to plummet, just nosedive straight downhill here with this cream ensemble. She clearly has on GMPs that have not been hemmed properly. Look at this picture. They are folding up on the ground. That is the giveaway that you didn't hem your trousers and they are too big, too long. These giant man pants, humongous trousers, are too big. They are puddling. You don't want them to puddle. You don't want them making contact with the ground and then stacking up and folding on top of themselves like this. That's what those pants are doing there at the bottom hemline. Silly mistake, easily avoidable. And then she's pairing it with a longer, which is good, turtleneck tank top, sleeveless turtleneck. That, not so great. The longer length of the turtleneck is good because, like I said, that elongates her torso. It balances her proportions a little bit better, and it makes that shorter torso blended. However, here it's kind of sloppy and messily done. You can see the trousers creating some bunching underneath this turtleneck situation, and it's maybe a touch too long for these wide trousers for it to really work. It's looking a little bit more kind of frumpy, and then the turtleneck has sort of long armholes or exaggerated armholes, so it's like a more relaxed fit. You're meant to wear like a slim fit long sleeve underneath something like this, but she has on a tank top underneath, so you can see that peeking through. That looks tacky and messy and sloppy. It just is not a good choice at all. She could have easily just worn a long sleeve underneath there. This one, I would say, just ends up looking really frumpy, this outfit overall. If her trousers were more like a cigarette pant or a straight leg pant and hemmed properly, this would have been a lot more successful, and wearing a long sleeve underneath would have helped. Also, when you're wearing a turtleneck, having the hair either up, half up, or just back and away and off your shoulders is going to be the best bet. Otherwise, it just closes everything in here and clutters it all up. This was not a great showing. Next, she is wearing a Centaur trench coat at the opening ceremony, once again in creams, bland colors. It's a shame that she's not wearing anything Invictus yet, and we are 3 outfits deep. The messy tie belt across the front here is just adding bulk to her waistline. She could have tied this a lot of different ways to make it look less messy, or better yet, not gone for a trench. We've talked about this since Meghan's days with the royal family, that coachman style coats that are double-breasted and buttoned but don't have a belt are going to be the best style of coat for Meghan, because they will allow her torso and her waistline to blend without adding any bulk to it via a tie belt. She loves those messy, sloppy tie belts, and as you can see here, it's just adding bulk. One positive of this particular coat, though, is it looks to have some panels along the hip, which is going to help add a little bit of weight to her narrower hips, creating more balance with her broader shoulders. I also wish she had her hair up for this because it just looks cluttered and messy and sloppy when you wear your hair down and you have a lot of stuff going on right here, as she does with this particular coat. Next, she and Harry attended a hockey game, and she's wearing a Givenchy jacket with a Valentino turtleneck. I suppose if she was going to pull out big designer names, the hockey game was a more appropriate space than Invictus, so we'll give a gracious pass for that. This ensemble is okay. I'm not getting a lot of great pictures from this. It looks to have a little bit more color. We might have to touch back on this one at a later fashion edition. On day 2 of the games, Meghan wore a gray jacket with a brown collar on the accent on the lapel. It's sort of two-toned lapel, which I like that element of it just as a piece by itself, but this does not fit Meghan very well at all. It's far too bulky and big in the shoulders for her, and then just super duper square. So then it's making her legs look all the more twiggy. It's throwing off her proportions. For Meghan, you really don't want to lean into the exaggerated proportions because she has so many things that are making her look like a box on stilts in terms of her body type. Lack of a well-defined waist, short torso, broad shoulder line, long lanky limbs. Those are 4 elements to her body structure that lean into that. So her outfits really need to bring in balance every single time. These flared jeans are not a great look. They're exaggerating further the skinniness of her upper legs and her knee area in comparison to that flare, and then the boxy blazer or jacket on top of it is just really not a great look proportion wise. Also just kind of a bland, boring color scheme. Why not wear an Invictus jacket? Why not, Meghan? Come on. I'm glad she has her hair tied back for this. That makes sense. That works. But it would have been a lot more successful if she would have worn a lighter colored jean and a darker top, a darker blazer would have been better, because drawing the eye down and adding some visual weight via a lighter shade in the trousers or the jeans helps bring some of that balance, adding visual weight down low and taking it away up top with darker colors. Or just going with straight leg jeans would have been much better than the flared. And then this coat, yeah, it just needs to be tailored in and fitting her a little bit better. Evidently underneath this, or this might have been a different event, she's wearing a basic navy sweater, and this is quite nice. The collar's a little bit chunky, drawing the eye in, that's fine. It looks to be a decent fit and whatnot. I have no problem with a basic navy sweater. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just the pairing of the jeans that doesn't work. Next, let's take a look at this outfit she wore while reading to children who were not really paying attention. I watched a bit of the video. They were very much not captivated with her delivery, unfortunately. You know, it's not easy to be a storytime lady. She wore an olive green look that just didn't match nice enough. The top, the sweater here looks more brown in tone, and the skirt and shoes look more olive in tone. So this, I feel like, just is kind of not matching in tone close enough to work. It looks a little icky together, these two colors. I don't mind this sweater for her. The buttons across the shoulder line are going to draw the eye over there, but it is asymmetrical. So it's not going to have as dramatic of a widening effect to the shoulder line as you might think, adding embellishments to the shoulder here, because that asymmetry really does help to balance it out and prevent it from widening the situation. It's always a nice trick and an easy way to add embellishments to basics, to have something like some buttons or something of that nature just along the top of one shoulder or along both of the cuffs. It's a great technique. You can even spruce up some of your favorite pieces by just adding buttons in those locations to just make it feel fresh and new. I don't mind the midi skirt and sweater situation here. It's just a matter of the tones not matching, looking bad. I like that she has her hair tied back for this situation because it makes sense. You're reading stories to kids. You should have your hair tied back. But she could have skipped the high heels. She could have worn, maybe some loafers or some flats, something a little bit more approachable and normal if you're going to go read to kids. You don't need to be all done up and in high heels. You can dress more casually and approachable for the children. That makes sense. in yet another outfit change. How many outfit changes have we had already? We've had like 7 and it's only day 2. This is insane. This is ridiculous. These are the reasons why she gets criticized for making things about her and her fashion and look at me instead of just paying attention to the events and Invictus itself. There's no reason why she couldn't have just worn an Invictus polo and a sweater to stay warm and some straight leg trousers or jeans and some sneakers or flats the entire day. There's no reason why she couldn't do that. One thing to keep in mind from a marketing perspective is if you have an outfit change for every single different event, it gives you a lot more content in these different outfits, making it look like each thing was a different day, a totally different, totally unique identity for each and every event. So then it can sort of maximize the amount of pictures and documentation of what you've been doing to make it look like a bigger deal, a longer duration of time, more events, more engagements, rather than having the same outfit throughout the day. Then it kind of gives it away that it all happened in one day, even though it would be the right choice from like an ethical, moral perspective to just not worry about your outfit so stinking much. On February 10th, she went for a craft and museum tour, and she wore this gray outfit here. We have some more GMPs from this outing. I don't have good pictures of it here, so we might have to touch on it again in a future fashion edition. One thing I'm noticing, even her coats are all new for this, which means she probably billed Archwell for all of her coats and all of her clothes. But just last year she did this. Why couldn't she rewear some of her coats and some of her outfits from last year's trip up to Canada? It feels frivolous. It's very out of touch with people and what they're going through right now. It's not becoming to the public to constantly be buying new $1,000 outfits every single chance you get and then billing it to a not-for-profit. That is some gross behavior and sure to get her some backlash. But I will be back in an upcoming fashion edition to look at more of these outfits that I can find some better pictures on, as well as some of the outfits coming up. Thank you so much for joining me for today's fashion edition. Leave in the comments below what you thought of her outfits so far, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye!